Hello, hello, folks, friends, people. Hey, Abhishek. Hey, Brent. Hey, Diana. Hi, Tracy. Hi, everyone. We are waiting for Anthony to join, and we'll dive right into this webinar. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. We're live. Say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody. It says my video can't start because
Oh,
my
no.
stopped.
Don't worry. It can start. Hold on one sec. Hi, Diana is excited for this. We're excited too. Give me 1 second so that I can turn Anthony's video on. Thanks, everyone. Sorry. Thanks for your patience. We need music. You want to sing a song, Anthony?
No,
No, I don't like that song. That's not the song I want for this.
no worries.
Okay, here we go. Making all the faces come up on the screen. Hi, everyone. Huh. Can we see your face now?
There we
Hi.
go.
How you doing?
Hello,
Hi,
I am
everyone.
well.
Oh, yay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is set us up on a LinkedIn Live as well. So,
Awesome.
folks, but we're not going to let that stop the webinar, stop this event. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Anthony? And then I'll do a little housekeeping and
Will
then we'll
do.
get the show on the road.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, everybody. So Anthony Johnson, a little bit about me. I am a multi-time Fortune 500 CISO. I was the CISO at GE Treasury, at Fannie Mae, for the corporate investment bank at JP Morgan, so the largest IB in the world. Deputy over at Cap One. I currently coach 46 CISOs and CIOs across the Global 2000. So I spend a lot of time working with them just on a ton of their growth and what they're doing. And 4.5 years ago, I started Delve Risk, which actually kind of flips the coin a little bit. And we work with sales and marketing teams to help them better understand their buyers. And so today we're going to cover, CISO concentration, where they actually live, what's kind of changing in the marketplace, walk you through a number of different data points and use some live action stuff to kind of answer some questions for you guys.
Awesome. And as everyone here knows or might not know, my name is Gianna Whitfer. I am CEO and co-founder of the Cybersecurity Marketing Society, the best place in the world to be a marketer in cyber. We exist to help marketers in this crazy, constantly changing, highly technical, very fun, kind of difficult, a little rocky at times, but really important industry be successful however we can help you. So that includes events like this where we work with partners and friends and luminaries such as ex-CISOs of very big companies in the industry. We bring them on to meet our members, to share information, to share interesting statistics, facts, and news. We have parties at large conferences like RSA. If you're at RSA conference this year, please come to our party on Sunday night. We have an annual conference, which will be held in December 8th through 11th in Philadelphia. Early bird tickets are live. They're early bird until mid-May. So please visit our website and grab a ticket there. And then we facilitate networking, education, research on all of the stuff that afflicts us or interests us as marketers in the cybersecurity industry. We are here to help you. Never be shy about sending me anything you need as a marketer in the industry, and the Cybersecurity Marketing Society will build it, basically. All right, so that's great. An advertisement for us at the Cybersecurity Marketing Society. I'm still hooking up the LinkedIn Live. Housekeeping for this session. This session, we always want it to be interactive. Last session we had with Anthony, I think it was what, like 5, 6 months ago, Anthony?
Yeah, I think so.
Last session was super interactive. Basically, people pelted Anthony with questions and like cities, and we actually got to see the tool live and got to identify places where CISOs live, which was really cool. This is meant to be super interactive. Please do not hesitate to put your comments, your questions, your Q&A in the Q&A box in the webinar or in the chat. If you want to come up live at any point, and you want to ask your question live, feel free to let me know. I'll upgrade you to panelist. And beyond that, I mean, we've all been on webinars for a long time now. So anything else, feel free to shoot me a message if you have any other questions. Also, yes, this is recorded. That was a big one, a big ask we got last time. All
Awesome,
right,
awesome.
Anthony.
And then Gianna, I just shot you a note. Someone from my team's trying to join. If you could check the email and just send him the link to join as an attendee, that would be epic.
Sure, I will do that. No
Awesome.
problemo.
All right. Let me get into this here. I have just a little bit of a slideshow thing. I really wanted to be able to use the time to answer some Q&A questions, and then kind of go from there. The One of the really important things I think is to kind of share what we believe, and just how we kind of think about things here, right? So let me start off with that, and then I'll just jump right into it. So why did we found Delve? Why did I found Delve Risk, and what is Delve Risk? Fundamentally, I believe great information and context are critical to making great decisions. It's hard to make those decisions when you're spending hours sifting through poor, inaccurate data. It's hard to move fast when you can't trust the information that you have or that you've received from your general data provider. And I believe that cybersecurity sales and marketing isn't the same as any other industry. It deserves a specialized, focused, purpose-built solution, to enable those teams, so that you can move fast, you can have meaningful conversations, and have more impactful outcomes. We couldn't find a solution like this, so we built one. We built one with the help of sales leaders, marketing leaders, demand gen leaders, and that's fundamentally what we're going to talk about today. We'll talk about how this all, the data collection stuff that we have, how it actually impacts you from planning your events, what it means CISO concentration, and please type in any questions in the chat, and hopefully we can add a lot of value, make life a bit easier for you all. With that, I'm going to share a bit of a slide share, PDF piece here. All right. Can you guys all see that screen?
No, we see your HubSpot actually.
Nope. Hold on.
Who hasn't done that?
I know. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. I'm just seeing the comments now. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Tracy. Justin, I know the song section of our live is over, but you will be judged on the choice of song.
All right, there we go. Does that work now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm not a big death by PowerPoint or PDF slides type of person, so I just I tried to keep this really simple here. So we're going to talk about CISO concentration, but first and foremost, let's talk about like who we're talking about here. Did I freeze?
No, you're good, but the slide is still on CISO concentration.
Yep, my computer just froze. You got to be kidding me.
Can you hear us, Anthony?
I can. Give me 1 second.
You're good. Don't worry.
I have to reboot this thing. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem.
Terrible,
Oh,
terrible.
Brittany has a question. When you're back, Brittany has a question. And we'll wait for Anthony to come back. No, all of you will just have to listen to me talk to myself until he comes back. Oh boy. That's our favorite, Jen. Thank you, Jen. That's sweet. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. Donna says, no worries. We've all been there. I know. As marketers, we've literally all been there. I remember in 2018, oh my gosh, we had this big partnership with like not an ISAC at the threat intelligence company I was working at, not an ISAC, but it was like a global risk alliance or something. And we had this big partnership with them, and we had a Zoom webinar with them. And we tested the webinar like a week in advance. This was before people were doing Zooms all the time. So it was like kind of a big deal. It was like, how does it work? And on the day of it, didn't work. It didn't work for 10 minutes. So our like 200 attendees whittled down to like 20, which was really great. So we've all been there. Thank you, Donna. And thank you for reminding me of that. We have all been there. So we'll just give it a second for Anthony to come back. Anyone want to come up and chat with me while we wait for Anthony?
I am back now.
Okay, you're
Sorry.
back, Anthony.
But I think you
I
need
did
to
an
re-enable me.
impromptu. I'm running my own podcast with myself. So here we go. There you go, Anthony. You should be good.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Um, Technology. What are you going to do? Okay, so the item here that I really want to just kind of jump into is, and let me share this again. Um, and we're good.
Yes, you
Okay,
got
cool.
it. See the who.
So who are we talking about? So when it comes to cyber executives, we all know that CISOs generally are viewed as the ultimate decision makers. There's two types of CISOs that I like to emphasize. There's the big C and the little c. There are CISOs who have juice, who have gas. They can actually make the decisions. Um, there are CISOs that I call the big C, and then there are little c CISOs who don't actually have the decision authority, right? They very much more rely on a decision by consensus or decision by committee. Sometimes a big C will actually entrust or empower their team to make the decision. So you have to recognize that there's a big difference. So what we do and what we track are not just the CISOs themselves, but the corresponding decision makers in their organizational hierarchy that are 2 or 3 levels below them. So think about it is if a CISO is an SVP, we're looking and we're talking about today the SVPs, the VPs, the senior directors, and the directors in cyber, right? Everything that we're looking at, everything we research and study is very, very specific to cyber. Um, if there are other decision makers or what we would call influencers, somebody who maybe is a whip smart, highly trusted manager, they wouldn't be within the data set that we're talking about. So again, we're looking at people with economic buying power, the ultimate budget authority, and those key influencers up and down that chain. All right, let me open up the chat. All right, so what's really, really fascinating is that they moved, right? So we know that they moved, partly because as you all know, when COVID happened, what ended up the world kind of shifted where people started to realize like, hey, I don't need to live in New York City or necessarily Connecticut if my office is in New York. I don't have to go into the office anymore. Early 2020, and people started to move. We saw this across the U.S. We saw people, the great exodus from New York to Tennessee to Florida and all over here and there. And so in a post-COVID world, we have this situation of where the buyers are not necessarily, and in most cases, they are no longer geographically mapped to or located to where the corporate headquarters are, right? Now, this adds a lot of complexity for marketing teams specifically. Where in the past you're like, oh, they're going to be in the office every day. Maybe we can send them some a gift thing or some marketing content there to the corporate office. It's going to get to them, and a lot of that just blew up and fell apart. And now we're in a world of okay, how do we figure out where they live? And it's just a really really messy map that people have to manually do. The second piece is that we have these RTO mandates, so return to office. And this is a really, really weird time because a number of these executives who did move in their corresponding teams are being asked or expected to be in some sort of a corporate facility, 2, 3 days a week. The number of execs who no longer have to do this at all, you can just work fully remote, is continuing to dwindle. And I think we're going to continue to see this shifting here. Now, they might not have to go to their headquarters. I know a couple CISOs who've opened up, local offices to kind of support, hey, I'm not moving, I'm not changing. We're going to do something here in local because talent, et cetera. But RTO impacts have been coming. They're starting to really, really be felt, particularly by the mid-level management teams, and definitely at the director and below the CISOs here. And the third dimension here is this. We had, what was it, 2021 and largely 22, of where a lot of organizations just had minimal, if any, travel, right? Travel started to pick up in 2023. We definitely saw higher attendance at some of the big conferences. And while the executives themselves and some of their key directs are still able to travel, We are generally seeing and hearing from CISOs that the overall aspect and opportunity for travel, the travel budgets have been challenged. Of where the CIO, CFOs are saying, "Hey, you didn't need to go anywhere for 4 years almost. Why do you suddenly got to go somewhere now?" Right? So what a lot of them are doing is they're having a much bigger emphasis on regional events, localized conferences and events that their teams are able to attend without having to incur so much travel here. Does that make sense to everybody? Are you hearing or seeing anything different? Happy to talk about where we're seeing it from, getting the data from, etc. So if you
We're
want to
getting
just type any
thumbs up
questions.
from the audience. Is everyone else seeing that? Lots of thumbs up.
Cool. Awesome. So what does this mean for this topic today, right? If we actually look at so at Delve Risk, we study the 1,600 largest enterprises. These are generally over $1 billion in revenue or greater. We have a few that are smaller than $1 billion, but you can really think about it as we are focused on large scale enterprises studying the large scale enterprises in support of ABM motions. So if you have an account-based marketing aspect, you have, named accounts for your sales reps. These are the largest accounts. That's what we're studying here. And this quick look here is we can look at the number of cities or the cities, and then the number of cyber executives at these largest companies that live there. Of course, you're going to see New York. There's always an event going on in New York, but then it's a pretty steep drop down. And a few of the things that we wanted to highlight is while there's always activity in New York, you can kind of see that on this geo map here, the green dot here. There are a bunch of other cities that do have a smattering 20, 30 of the largest executives there that are often not being targeted for any of your cybersecurity conferences, your dinners, any of those types of events. And it's really, really interesting just to kind of see how that dynamic works. One of them that's really, really great is Charlotte. So if you think about Charlotte, there are typically a lot of vendor events and dinners in Charlotte, and just an hour or so away, you've got Raleigh, maybe it's an hour and a half. They get no love. I've spoken to a number of security leaders who are like, "Hey, can you tell vendors to do some stuff in Raleigh because we are tired of driving to Charlotte because that's the only place that they can do them in." Does that make sense?
Really, Anthony?
100%. It's fascinating, right?
But Raleigh
Um,
is the capital of North Carolina.
I
And
know,
lots of
but
people live there. It doesn't have to all be Charlotte. No offense.
I
I
know, but
lived in
most
Raleigh, so I got a little love for it in my heart there.
like we should do something in Raleigh. But yeah, there's a number of these even just vendor dinners. They usually happen in Charlotte, seldom happen in Raleigh, right? That's exactly it. Alpharetta, Atlanta. There's just a ton of these types of things that we call hidden gems, right? So out of the I think it's 700 something cities that we've mapped executives to, there's a lot of gems, right? Where that you might not think about to have someone attend. Like St. Louis is a really, really good one, right? There's some stuff that happens here. There are certain vendors that have done really well in St. Louis, but usually because their executive leadership teams are more concentrated there. So we kind of think about like Netscope historically, right? Nashville is another one that just doesn't get a lot of love. Like, you don't think about Nashville as being a hub for cybersecurity leaders, but there's about 25 or so of the largest companies that live in Nashville. And I think that you'll find those types of gems that would be very, very interesting for you. Questions on that? Thoughts?
There are questions in the chat. And there's also, I want to call out that Brent, hi, Brent, is here, a CISO that we know and love. So feel free, Brent, if you would like to jump on up and join us, I'd love to invite you to speak with me and Anthony on this
Awesome.
topic. Hi, Brent. How you doing? Not to call you out, but totally to call you out. Okay, so we have a question from Brittany. Question: where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? No. Where in the world or the country should I start for my roadshow events? SOS.
Sure.
Anthony.
Yeah, so really, really great point. I think partly it depends on what you're looking to target here, right? So let's assume that your ICP is going to be financial services, and I'll actually show you some stuff. Here, let me just jump and show you just to make it a little bit easier for you.
Make it interactive.
100%.
Brittany says targeting CISOs, financial services. Absolutely.
All right.
And then we have more questions when you're done with this one, Anthony, but I want to make sure you get through.
Yep. Got it. All right. So let me share this here.
If anyone's watching on LinkedIn Live, feel free to put a comment or question in the LinkedIn Live box chat as well. We already got a nice comment from AJ about how much he loves Anthony Johnson, which is so nice. And just a
Awesome. Well,
nice
thank you.
comment. Like Anthony's great and we love his team, which is really nice. So,
Awesome.
okay,
Thank you
go
so
ahead,
much.
Anthony.
Yeah,
Hi,
yeah,
bro.
yeah. So I'll actually show you some stuff, Brittany. This is actually the Delver's portal. And so what I would do is I would actually look and say, let's just say you wanted to see financial services, insurance, retail, and tech. I'm just making it up here, right? Um, I would then look at the overall concentration of where these headquarters are located, which is great and interesting. What you're going to see is massive concentration across, in the Northeast, which is what you would expect. Very low on the Midwest side here. So generally, I would immediately start to say, hey, let me try to look at those those center masses here. I'd also call out, and I'll show you probably even an easier way. I'd also look specifically within our reports, or even just ask us, like shoot me a note and I will just give you some answers. Like that's perfectly fine too. So looking at, where these actual individuals live. So that's going to be a just kind of a quick way specifically, but more directly, you can shoot me a note and we can actually just kind of break this out this way, right?
Oh,
So
Anthony, is that a special offer for members of the Cybersecurity Marketing Society for
yes, I
on this
will.
meeting or on this
Yep.
Zoom?
If they shoot me a note of any city, I will tell you all the executives who live in that city.
Yay.
So let's just say that you're going to do Boston, right? These are all the cybersecurity executives who live within 30 miles of Boston. And so tell me where you're doing an event or where you're trying to organize because your exec is traveling, and I'll just go ahead. We'll just literally use our tool, set the location, whatever industry segmentation, and I'll export you a spreadsheet. And then we'll go from there. But that's probably the way I would do it. It is important to know, this is a great example. Let's just say I wanted to see all the companies where someone in their exec team lives in Chicago. It's really fascinating. We've got executives who live in the headquarters are in Ireland, the headquarters are in Switzerland, and they actually live in Chicago. So it's a dangerous game a bit just to pick based off the corporate headquarters, as a lot of the executive teams are, they've moved, which is kind of the gist of this broader conversation here, right? So if you
Anthony,
were, yeah,
how much has RTO impacted that? Because executives have to come back to the office. And then Tracy has a question, which I want to get to. So,
absolutely. It's starting to impact that, right? It's literally starting to impact that, where we're seeing the executives are actually flying and traveling so that they don't have to move yet. So we're seeing more of them traveling back to the headquarters or to a regional office. It's one of the things that we're beginning to track, is, are they actually having to move? Is it a forced move? What you'll find and what we're seeing right now is that there are a lot of CISOs who are looking to change jobs because they are now being pushed back into RTO.
interesting.
And so there's a tremendous number that are now saying, hey, I'm not going to start going. Go ahead.
And we have a CISO on the line here on our very chaotic webinar. Hi, Brent.
Hey, how are you?
Brent, who are you? And then Tracy, I swear I'll get to your question. I swear.
I'm a CISO of a mid-market company who I was hired remotely, and so everyone's cool with me remaining remotely. But I will absolutely resonate on the travel. Like when I look at my event plan that I'm doing in 24, I am almost never getting on a plane. But I am downtown Chicago, which is a mild opinion. It's about an hour and a half for me to get downtown, but I'm down there on a semi-regular basis. In fact, I was down there yesterday for an event. I'll be down there a couple days in May. Usually I drive down. Sometimes I will stay because when not in a hotel, it's not a big deal. But that is absolutely the case. I like the consideration for me to go to a large national conference is no, not
Why
It's,
not?
happening.
it's super tough. So thanks for that validation, Brent. And it's good to see you, man. Um, one other thing that I would do, maybe Brittany, to answer your question is, and again, if you want to just shoot me a note, I'm happy to kind of give you some answers here, right? We actually have an event calendar that tracks all the cybersecurity conferences and events, so you can kind of see what's going on in every city, sponsors. I would actually also look at your partner organizations or your friendlies, right? So I use this as an example. Wiz is a customer, right? But these are all the cyber events that Wiz is sponsoring this year. And being able to look and say, maybe you want to see all the guide point events, or if you have a great integration partner, and then look to correlate and do your roadshow based off of what's going on that night. Because one of the worst things that could happen as a marketing person, right, is you set an event, you pick a day, and then you look and you're like, oh my goodness, there's 4 other massive things maybe in the region, or that people are not going to, they're traveling to or from. And then you've already set everything in motion, and then you're really scrambling to get, attention that's already locked in. So some of that type of stuff I would look at. And again, just feel free to shoot me a note. Happy to chat through it.
All right. Tracy wants to know. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Brent. Brent was like, this is too much for me and dropped off a video.
I love it.
Tracy wants to know about, I think it was Sydney. Hold on. It's in here. Do I see London and potentially Sydney on this diagram? Anthony, you want to show us a little bit of the international flair
Yeah.
you have in the Delverse platform? Who's living in Sydney and or London?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So when it comes to London, Sydney, so we study the largest organizations, and then if there's a company that's not on there, our customers can just ask us to. I think there's about 25 in Sydney, and that makes sense because we've added a bunch of Australian companies recently. Same with London. So from the geolocation perspective, that makes life pretty easy. We don't study Chinese or Russian companies, so to be really clear, but you're going to definitely see that in here. So let me just pull this back up here. And so like if I were just to do Sydney, Australia, let's just do 30 miles. So yeah, and you can kind of see Qantas, Suncorp, Woolsworth, Westpac. So a lot of Australian-based organizations, state South Wales, right? But yeah, and then of course being able to access their content specifically. London is an interesting one. Usually, again, there are, and you can see London, Canada, UK, London. But let me look at London, UK. So here again, a lot of international organizations. Although there are some that are going to be more classical US components. So we're definitely seeing that cross the pond split there. It is important to note though, right? Like if you're going to target something in, say you're going to do a dinner in London, or one of your executive team leaders are going to London, you have to be able to. They have to be ready to cross industries, cross sectors. So because that sector segmentation like no longer exists, just like it doesn't on the broader geolocation of where they live.
So Anthony, that's more than just the Fortune 1000. Then I saw NHS England,
Yeah,
National
so
Health
we have
System. So
we've got 1,600 companies right now, 1,665. As long as they're generally over $1 billion in revenue, we are starting to add more public sector organizations as well. But that's 100% driven by customers. So a customer can just request a company and then kind of go from there.
oh, that's
But
cool.
yes, and I saw the comment, Brittany. Yes, RL is absolutely a client, so you have access to all of this stuff already.
Awesome. Yasu Vasily has a question. All right, let me find it though. So many of these cities are metro. For example, you have Los Angeles. Does that include Orange County? Or is that considered separate from LA? And that's such a good point because Los Angeles is freaking huge. Los Angeles is
It is.
like miles and miles and miles and miles wide. So same applies to Washington, DC, New York City, etc. What do you say, Anthony?
Yeah, 100%. It's actually, so in our first version of the event tool, we just had it located based on city. So you just pick the city name. And our most recent version that we released in January, we added the geolocation. So you can pick a radius from there. We have received requests from customers for us to pick a address, so they could say, so one of the things we're looking to add in is actually restaurants on there. So you could say, hey, I want to find restaurants that have, a private dining room. How much does it cost? All that stuff. And then you would be able to pick based off of radius from there. So those are all definitely things we're looking at. It is messy, right? Like Brent said, if somebody lives over here in Chicago and somebody lives over here in Chicago, they're never going to meet here in Chicago, right? It just takes too long
Yeah.
to drive. So
That's such a point, because when you were doing your 30-mile radius, that is what I know. 30 miles is like, if you have a central point, maybe they're 15 and 10 and 5 and whatever, but it is hard to expect someone to drive or to travel in for
it
like
is.
more
Yeah,
than an
you're
hour.
absolutely right. So one of the things we, like I said, we are looking at, we're even looking at getting to the point of mapping their potential drive times, from whether it's their local office or home, because there's so much publicly available information. So being able to help customers like literally plan out, hey, we want a dinner, we want to make it easier for CISO X, Y, and Z, and maybe it's a little harder for these people, and so that's okay. So those are all things that we're looking at.
Very cool. You're getting lots of hearts for that. Tracy had a follow up. And then Henry agrees with this follow up. Can we send you companies we don't find and ask you to add them? I think
Yep.
that was a yes, correct?
Yeah, 100%. It's already built into the portal. You can literally just hit request a company, and then we'll add them in there. Or if you're already a customer, you can just shoot us a note, and then we'll add them. Usually what happens is when we add a new customer, they send over anywhere from 10 to 15 new companies. And then we provide updates of, hey, this is how many are in the queue, this is when it'll be done. And then, of course, we maintain all of this information and update it every single month. So again, I think one of the big things for takeaway for people here today is, if you're looking at doing an event, a dinner, execs traveling somewhere, and you just want to make your life easier so you don't have to do the LinkedIn, Google searching, just shoot us a note, and then we'll send you the answers, so you can look like a hero real quick.
Love that. Love that. What makes our members of the Cybersecurity Marketing Society and marketers' lives easier is for someone to
Yep,
package that up and send it over instead of having to search through Google for an
absolutely.
hour. Yeah.
I mean, and that's the big thing, right? Like being able to look at, industry segmentation, ICP. We actually have something I haven't shared much. We figured out how to reverse engineer the tech stack of companies. This is not GA yet, but yes. So Vasily, does your platform incorporate intent data? We don't have intent. And that's probably a really, really good conversation. We provide context. So we're not trying to say, hey, they look at your website, so they think we think they're going to buy. We provide the context research for account planning. And a lot of our customers use intent providers, so I'm not knocking that at all. I think it's good. We do have contact information, so email addresses, of course, LinkedIn, Twitter, those types of pieces. We do not provide phone numbers. We're not trying to replace an Apollo, right? We're super focused on cybersecurity, only at the largest companies, and knowing everything about their programs. One thing that your probably next question, Vasily, would be on like, hey, do you have the tech stack solutions? Let me show this just because it's a little bit off the path, but I'm geeking out about it. So
Ooh, new feature. We're getting
it
like a
is.
first look here, which is cool.
Yeah. So a lot of times organizations try to find they do scans and try to figure out what vendors are in place. What we've done is we've actually pulled over 1 million resumes of mid-level practitioners in IT and cyber, and we can search the resumes for any keyword. What's really, really fascinating is you can actually see your competitive takeouts, partners, organizations. You can see this person, they deployed 15,000 computers, 200,000 computers, all the features of what they're doing here. Again, a very data-centric way of pulling this. So this is, in a private GA, private release that we're doing for our customers now. We're looking to GA that in the next couple of months, which will also enable us to say, as you're trying to plan an event or figuring out where people move and why, that type of information will additionally flow there too. So all really, really good stuff. I have
I
three
want
things
to
I want
take
to make
a
sure I touch on. Go ahead, please.
Sure. Quick break. If you want Anthony or Anthony's team to reach out to you about Delve Risk, whether you're an existing customer or a potential, you're interested in learning more about the product, post in the comments right here in the chat, and I'll make sure that Anthony and
Awesome.
Anthony's team reaches out so that you don't have to remember to follow up or submit a form. Just post in the chat, say, hey, reach out to me. Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
So there's really three things I wanted to make sure that everyone, had as kind of takeaways here, right? And I went to IU, so classic marketing MBA type stuff. So the first here is to look to maximize your regional event awareness based on the geolocation of where the cyber decision makers live, right? Like Brent said, some of them are still attending big events, which is great. But the growth and proliferation of the cyber conference market has just exploded. There were over 1,900 of them last year alone. And what's really kind of nutty about it is when you look at this, just the sheer volume of what's going on. I mean, there's 13 today, 15 tomorrow, 18 on Thursday, right? 28 next week on one day. It gets to be overwhelming, right? And so what I would say is look for those aspects that are regional, and don't forget about the chapter type of events like the local ISSA, Cloud Security Alliance events, those types of things. Regional events have started to explode over the past few years, and they're getting a lot of stickiness. If you're looking for a specific example, the one I talk about a lot is the North Texas ISSA. It's like $2,000 to sponsor. There's 600 some CISOs who love that ISSA chapter, and they go. I think it's Dallas, Plano, and some other ones are Southern California, Colorado. A lot of growth there, and then a lot of growth in the RHISAC as well. So the RHISAC has been doing a tremendous amount of stuff. I know, today is an RHISAC event. I know a lot of people are out of Google Next, but definitely keep those regional events in mind. Second,
Where's
you want to maintain.
RHISAC this
Well,
year?
go ahead.
Where's RHISAC? Where'd they put it? Since we're talking about cities.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
In
In Denver.
Denver.
So the Hyatt Regency in Denver.
Awesome. Okay, keep
Yep.
going, Anthony. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's good. And that's part of an important piece of okay, well, and I definitely mean this. If you have people in Denver or sales reps or whomever, there are certain ones you don't need to sponsor. Just LobbyCon, show up at the bar, buy some drinks, and you'll find tremendous opportunities, particularly ISAC ones.
I love this because there's no with how many events there that are happening, there's no way to know everything that's going on in a given city. In this way, you could just reach out to your sales folks in Denver and be like, hey, this is happening. Do you want to go? Here's a list of everything that's happening in Denver this year so far. You're not traveling to some other conference. You don't have a client meeting. You don't have existing prospect demos. Here's a day where maybe you can go out and meet folks on the ground.
Yep, that's exactly it. A lot of our customers, their sales reps actually use the event calendar just to do just that. Additionally, looking at if let's say you have a great relationship with GuidePoint and you realize, hey, GuidePoint's sponsoring this thing, we should show up, right? You're probably not going to have to pay. You're going to be able to kind of get some exposure, meet some additional people. But just having your reps and sellers know, marketing teams know all the stuff that's going on is important. Particularly for the regional events, right? The second piece I would say is maintain enough engagement in the larger cities, but don't forget about the underrepresented cities, right? Those diamonds in the rough, the Raleighs of the world, right? It's a really interesting dynamic. And whenever I talk to CISOs in some of these cities, they're like, yeah, there's just vendors never do dinners here. And I'm like, people should totally do dinners in Nashville. There's one, it's great food, great music. Two, you have a concentration of security leaders who are just not being invited everywhere. if you're a CISO or a cyber exec in New York, you get invited everywhere all the time, right? But if you're living in Nashville, it's very rare that hey, we have this dinner going on. We flew our CEO in, right? Brent agrees with that.
You in Nashville?
No joke. I could not pay for dinner 3 nights a week. Easy.
Where do you
Yeah.
live, Brent? Where are you based?
I'm in the big cornfield west of Chicago. So if I
Okay.
wanted to drive my happy butt downtown 3 nights a week, no problem.
Wow.
CISOs could eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner in the big cities and not ever pay for it. It's a
Yeah.
wild, but if you go to some of these diamonds in the rough, you're going to get a lot more attention. It's going to be a lot easier, and it really, really meaningful.
Brent, what was the last free dinner slash free booze tasting slash interesting fun thing you went to?
Last night.
Okay.
Yeah, last night we were at STK Steakhouse in Chicago after the Ions event. A newer startup named Valence Security sponsored it, and we went out and we had a fantastic time. It was good conversation. We got crashed. Like a person came in, crashed the party, and was
Really?
really drunk, and then tried to leave and fell on the floor, and it was. I've never seen that in all my years doing this. I've never seen someone crash a party and then fall down drunk. But
That's hilarious.
Oh my, very interesting things happen at these.
Hopefully, it wasn't the
dinners.
sales rep for some other competitor.
No, it wasn't. We had to do a process of elimination. We're like, wait, is he with you? Said no. So we
That's
had to
pretty funny.
compare lists and figured out it was some crasher. So
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, there's just no shortage of dinner events,
Oh.
especially if in the big cities.
We have a
Take it to the smaller
question.
ones.
Oh.
All good. Go ahead.
Yeah. Brent, Brittany has a question for you. When people invite you to a dinner, do you feel that it needs to have a dedicated topic focus to make you want to attend, or just networking is enough?
Networking is enough depending on who I know, right? I mean, I also have no shortage of events, communities, white papers, webinars, no sales meetings, you name it. So I say no to about 90% of what I get invited to. And the 10% that I do respond to is based on relationships, right? I know someone, I know the people who are going to be there, or it is a company that I have a defined relationship with. The likelihood of me leaving my family and missing football practice to go downtown to people that I don't know and may not like I've had really good steak. I mean that isn't a real draw anymore. But if I'm going down and I know, oh, Mike and Walter and Bill are going to be there, well, okay. And it's something that I'm interested in anyway, like either current vendor or someone that I know their events are good. I have 3 tiers of events, but my top tier events, I will go down for them all the time. By the same token, there are some vendors that I don't even do business with, but that I will drive down there just because I like them.
Nice.
It's all relational.
I think one other thing and that's important with security leaders and vendors, I think, do this a lot. They're like, hey, we have to have them come talk about this topic particular to our platform. You will have those conversations, right? Like those conversations will happen at the dinner or event. And I know this is a big contention point with a lot of CEOs, VPs of sales are like, we need 15 minutes to do the pitch. And they're like, that's critical. It's like, if you're there, you're networking, you're building the relationships, you will get there, right? So we actually encourage a number of our customers to find other reasons for CISOs to attend your dinner. So great example, some of our customers, we've partnered or connected them with executive recruitment firms, and they'll bring an executive recruiter to just talk about the CISO landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find CISOs that will show up for that. And then your teams will be able to build a network within that context.
I love it.
Before 2023, I was tired of talking about AI. That was before 23.
Yeah.
I'm really tired about talking about AI now. Right? But to your point, I love dinners where it's yes, they're sponsored, right, by a vendor, but it is a fellow CISO who's talking about a topic, not a vendor, but just talking about a topic. I like that. I like that. I like hearing from vendors too. Some of my favorite events are by C-Vision, right? And one thing I love is that I'll have 5 takeaways from a day conference. 3 of them will be from fellow CISOs, 2 of them will be from vendors, right? I like that. Now, I was a vendor for 19 years, so I like y'all, right?
Little friendlier. Hey, Brent, I saw a new question pop up. Thoughts on the time of day, lunch or dinner?
Dinner.
Dinner.
Yeah, because so think about it. If I happen to be going up to Schaumburg, which is about an hour away, for lunch, but it's a real pain in my butt. So I've got to leave my house by 11 to get there by noon. I sit there until 1:30 or whatever. Then I drive home and it's 3. Like I just screwed half my day. Whereas if I leave here at 4 o'clock, that's okay. I get downtown, and then also it's my time that I'm giving up, not my company's time that I'm giving up, and it's a lower threshold for me.
Yeah, and depending on the security leader, the which night of the week matters pretty meaningfully as well. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of factors, to definitely look at. Awesome.
Awesome. I was
Thanks,
just saying bye
Tracy.
to Tracy. Thanks for coming. Hope to see you at RSA.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing everyone at RSA too. The last point I just want to touch on here is, and this is actually really a big missed one. Collaborating with your partner and channel organizations, right? So when they're doing something, tapping into their ecosystem, whether it's a dinner, an event, or your VCs, your investors, a lot of times they're hosting stuff as well. But being very deliberate. We've actually got 10 VCs now on our platform as customers using the information. But being able to work with them to figure out where you should be, where you should not be, being able to kind of say, hey, we want to pick these target cities. But the big core here is that it's a mobile world now. It's shifting a little bit. You're seeing a lot of CISOs shift. We're in the middle of doing this analysis. The number of jobs that CISO cybersecurity jobs that have been cut in the past 2 months has just been staggering, literally staggering.
And like Slack channels full of 700 CISOs and stuff. I mean, it's pretty brutal right now. It's rough. And you have very veteran CISOs who have been out of work for a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. I mean, the largest negative, in the past month alone, 64% of the cyber jobs and energy and utility jobs companies have been cut. 61, open roles, not existing positions, right? And a lot of this is because they're rebalancing that RTO. They're saying, hey, these were all open roles that were remote anywhere. Now they'll open back up probably the next month or so, with a smaller subset of in person, or if they don't try to automate there. But that's really what I wanted to cover. Hopefully, again, everybody shoot me your targets. Let me know how we can be helpful. Hopefully this was interesting and useful. But there's definitely a lot of changes that have happened. Don't rely on the corporate headquarters anymore, because that's not a thing anymore, and hasn't been for a couple of years.
Very wise wisdom here from Anthony at Delve Risk. Any last questions, folks? Any other questions? You want to throw a city name out there? You want to ask Brent about what his favorite meat is or something, so you could offer him a dinner? What? Any other questions? All right, folks.
Really good bourbon tasting will generally get me out too.
What's your favorite bourbon, Brent?
I
know this, but I'm gonna
I like wheated bourbons. My favorite right now is from Bardstown Distillery. They created their own wheated bourbon. They released it January of 23. It's fantastic. It's $50 a bottle, which is not too bad. So pretty outstanding.
Very great.
I've built a whole bar in my basement, so I have a gorgeous bourbon bar in my basement with all my stuff down there. So
sounds like the next event's going to be at your house.
Actually. I said this to their Chicagoland CISOs, and they're like, "Dude, when are you having a CISO party?" I'm like, "Well, I should." They're like, "You absolutely should." We'll come. Okay.
I saw somebody said BrentCon, so I'm a fan of BrentCon.
That's awesome.
Last question here. We did get one at the end here. bourbon tasting versus dinner versus an activity. What do you prefer, Brent?
So here's the deal. I am really hesitant about activities. And the reason being is that I don't feel right about taking something of significant value unless I'm doing business with someone or I'm potentially going to do business with someone. So I get invited to a lot of stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not, because I know I'm not going to do business with that company, right? Whereas a bourbon tasting is like, okay, I mean, that's like dinner with slightly different drinks. Like I'm okay with that. And yeah, so bourbon tastings are good. Dinners are okay. Again, depending on like, there's got to be some semblance of relationship, because like I'm not a state tourist.
So the takeaway though is that if Brent says yes to your event, you can increase your forecast percentage up.
Maybe.
It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah, I am. Man, I'm rarely a buyer for my environment, but my environment's pretty awesome because I've been in truck for a couple of years. So
One last one. Michael wants to know. So no golf for Brent.
I am not a golfer. I don't golf. I don't do cooking classes. I don't do wine tastings. Other people do. That's awesome and great. Tell you what, wow. So my reseller is Gadwon, which I love, and I'm very happy that last year they got a box for Bears Packers. I'm a big Packers fan, and I got to go watch my Packers beat up the Bears opening weekend. So that was one of the better events.
I will say this one last plug for us. If you do want to see any of the executives organized by hobbies, we actually have that too. So if you're looking for people who
I was setting that up for you, Anthony. I was like, come on now.
Or automobiles or aircraft or blogging, all the way down to their pets, and so actually our customers will use this information when they're doing like a black hat event to make sure they have the right bourbon for whomever or whatever that is. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind.
That's cool. That's
Had to
really
plug
cool.
that. So thank you so
Not
much, everybody.
hard.
Really,
Thank
really
you.
appreciate the time, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Harmony. If anyone wants Anthony to reach out, feel free to drop in the chat and he'll reach out after the call. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome.
I'll give it just 1 minute.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Take care.
Brent,
Bye.
for jumping on.
Sure.
Brittany raised her hand and she put it back down. All right. Bye, Brittany.
See you guys.
Jen wants to connect.
Perfect.
All
Thank you.
right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.